Well, all right, y'all. All across the USC, Compton, Watts, Bay to LA, Pomona, California, from valley to valley, we represent that killer Cali. So if you keeping it real on your side of your town, you tune in to Gangsta Chronicles.
Gangsta Chronicles, we gon' tell you how it goes.
If I lie, my nose will grow like Pinocchio. We gon' tell you the truth and nothing but the truth.
Gangsta Chronicles, this is not your average show.
You're now tuned into the real MC8, Big James, and Big Steel.
This is strictly from the streets.
Hello.
We represent the James.
1969, Raymond Washington and AC King Bubba Louie was road dogs together.
Right.
And when AC Bubba Louie became a Paroo and started banging with Paroo because he got shot up by some Compton Crips in a drive-by motorcycle incident, he had a lot of fire in his heart behind that. So he didn't focus on any Crips. He focused only on Compton. He said it himself. He had nothing against the East Side Crips. Those his loved ones. But the Compton Crips, those was his most hated enemies. And he proved that by even going to YA for a murder. So I cannot take nothing from AC because he's a real warrior. He's also a real warrior to the point where he got down toe-to-toe with one of their toughest Goliath. Yeah, Goliath. Like in David and Goliath, James Miller. I hate to say it, but they call him James Miller, the Brim Killer. And he was bigger than Tookie. Him and AC King Bubba Louie, they squared off in Juvenile Hall. So just by AC squaring off with a big Goliath like that, that showed me automatically that he believed what he stood for when he became Paroo. Right. You know, we have to understand that this gang activity is kind of similar like religion. If I claim to be a Christian or a Muslim, and I decided to change my faith like Malcolm, he did the same thing. He once believed that all white folks was devil, but then he went to Mecca and he seen that there were white folks also in Mecca. So his whole perspective and his whole view of humanity dealing with Islam was different than what he was being taught as white devils. Because he was breaking bread with his Muslim brothers in Mecca. And he found out the culture there was not racist. So how can he be racist when Islam is not racist?
Now, can I ask you a question, Frog? You know, with the advent of the internet, it gives different people voices. Sometimes that's for the better. Sometimes, as we see, it's for the worse. It's a lot of bullshit that's out there too, right? How much of the stuff do you think online today that the people seeing is accurate?
Well, that's a good question right there, because that's kind of hard to dissect. The only way I would think that an individual can come up with truth, it's just like when you study the Bible. You know what I'm saying? If you study anything and your heart is deeply into it, you're going to research it to the point to where you're not biased enough to say, well, let me read the Holy Quran. Well, let me read the Torah. Sometimes you have to know how to put the puzzle together. This is a big puzzle to me. You know, I once told somebody that this reminded me of gumbo. And did you know that the word gumbo in Swahili, it means okra? And without okra in your gumbo, you don't really have real gumbo. So I look at myself as an okra of the gumbo. I'm trying to keep it real, keep the gumbo real. And without me telling the truth, I don't think that it would be real, because I don't think that they have real enough guys around to stand up for the real. You know, people might dislike me behind the real, but you know what? Hey, they just like Jesus, they just like Malcolm, and they just like a whole lot of other people who stood up for the truth. Martin Luther King died for the truth.
Let me say this. It's a lot of people, like older guys, because can't nobody at 30, 35, 40 tell the history of Bloods or Crips. Can't nobody sit here at 40 and tell me about Raymond Washington, Pookie, or none of these guys. I get it from my uncles and them that was there, that's of that age, 67, 68 years old at this time now. You got a lot of misconception out there what Crips was supposed to be, or what it meant, or what Raymond Washington wanted it to be. And it wasn't this, what you see today. You know what I'm saying? You got Bloods out there, such as yourself, coming with real facts and the truth, because a lot of these older guys is getting out of prison after doing 30, 41 years, and they saying, this is bullshit. Why the fuck I come home to this? This is what I gave my 40 years for? You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking for those dudes.
In vain.
You know what I'm saying? I done did 31 years. Marcus just got out doing 31 years. LB, and there's so many brothers that lost their lives believing that this is the way it's supposed to be, and it's not. It's you got guys out there, just call them false prophets, speaking on something and pretending to be the Messiah of the Paroos, the Messiah of the Crips, and if they don't know the history and can't really sit down and tell you the history of this, where do we go?
So let me ask you this question: is there any particular person that you preferring to when you said that?
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, well we're gonna keep the line moving there.
Yeah,
because
I don't think it's necessary.
I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. You know, I do not like fabrication when it comes to this gang history. And the reason why, because I done seen so many people doing life in prison, so many people done lost their life, and you know, in the graveyard pushing up daisies. And I think that it's like, you know, so disrespectful for those who did keep it real.
But let me ask you this, Frog. Have you seen anybody out there just saying stuff that it just gets up under your skin because it's so off the cuff?
That's a good question again. I like you, man. You answered the question that I want to answer. Well, number one is this. I understand, man, that the things that we did in life is very shameful. It's really nothing to brag about. You know, people done lost their mothers. Kids done lost their life sitting at the bus stop. You know, people done lost their life just because they wanted to wear burgundy or blue and they had nothing to do with gangbanging. So we have all this negative energy, but then you want to top it off with not telling the truth, you know? And I believe that, you know, it's very shameful on the things that we did, you know, because this stuff was real wild. And what I mean by wild, I mean it gets down to the point where people even start running in each other's houses and stuff like that. But I just want to say this right here and right now. The only thing in Watts that I knew in LA that fed the people, sold newspaper to the people, or gave people free newspaper of literature. And the only thing they was saying was off the pigs. They wasn't taking leather coats. All the leather coats they had on, I'm quite sure they went and bought them or their comrades gave it to them. And that was the Black Panther Party. I remember them like yesterday, you know, and that's what I call love. When you feed somebody and you educate somebody, you know, and you want to protect somebody from the system that be, the power that be, which is evil against your own community, those are my type of heroes. You know what I'm saying? Now, when we came out with the negativity, the Crips and the Bloods fighting each other, you know, instead of following behind the Black Panthers and picking up the guns and practicing revolution, we was practicing self-destruction against each other. We didn't have no dialogue or nothing. Everything was always to find a reason not to come together than to find a reason to come together.
But we all accepted that. I think every gangbanger that exists today or used to gangbang, we all accepted our titles, our roles in the hood of what we are, what we're gonna be. And I think at one point, and I can speak for myself, you might walk out the door and might not come back through this door today. You know, you accepted death by doing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because it might be your day you get caught up. So, I mean, I think it's rougher than that. We didn't look at the Black Panthers. We didn't look at what the dope was doing to our neighborhoods. We didn't look at that cat that's next to us. We didn't give a fuck, and that's where our life was at. So my whole thing is trying to educate these young cats that we have out here today that don't know this history, that don't know this nobody in these pictures, like myself. You know what I'm saying? Brothers that stood in the middle of the street by itself and called everybody out, come on, let's roll. And the mentality, when I read that part in the book where they had the cocktails posted up high and waited till everybody walked up, and then when the situation happened, they threw the cocktails. That's strategical shit to me. I'm into that type of shit. I love that type of shit in my days. I didn't just go off and just feel like just bam. I planned my shit. You know,
at least you confessing, and that's what I like. I like brother who can just confess, even if it's wrong. Confession is good for the soul because that means you're not in denial.
No, it just bring me back to, this is what we used to be.
Okay,
just like OG Frog, just like China Dog, and all of those guys. These cats is coming home from 31 years. They not looking at who they used to be before they went. Because I believe everybody that went to prison and did 40 for the hood, or killed somebody for the hood, or they the opposite side, and then get out, you don't see that. When you come home, it's something totally different. Everything was there is gone. So now they looking at this shit like, man, this shit was for nothing. I gave up 40 fucking years for nothing.
I believe, my brother, not to cut you off, I believe that there's a word or a saying that they used to say back in the 60s, and I think that is still true right today. And I don't know if they used the N-word when they said this, but I used to hear this, and I truly believe this. And I'm going to use it in a respectful way. I think black people is afraid of revolution. That's why we kill each other. I think we're afraid to go against the system. The system is still our master, so we don't kill master. You know what I'm saying? But another slave, we would kill him because why? He's worthless, And now we have the tendency of saying, not everybody, but some individual have a tendency of coming with the thought or the romantic version of that Crips and Bloods at one time was revolutionary. They were fighting the police. That's nowhere in history where the beginning of the Crips and Bloods came out fighting against the police or calling themselves revolutionaries for the community. My thing is this, my brother, you know what I'm saying? It's good to have that train of thought once you learn about yourself in prison, or somebody teach you that in Islam, that is about self-love and love for your brother. That's a good thing to do, brother. But for as the beginning of this, brother, we was all teenagers, man. We wasn't thinking like George Jackson. We wasn't thinking like Huey Newton. We didn't have that mentality. Matter of fact, to go deeper, AC Bubba Louie, King Bubba Louie, he said himself that the Crips with Raymond Washington did not have no principles and morals of defending the community. They wasn't even about that. King Bubba Louie himself says that they was about taking leather coats and beating people down. And now I just want to just read this very quick to you to see what King Bubba Louie had to say about Raymond Washington being armed with a firearm compared to Ray Boyce, who never used a firearm. I just wanted to see what King Bubba Louie had to say in his book, which is called The Starting Lineup. I'm quite sure it's a blockbuster seller now, so we all know where I'm probably going with this. And where I'm going with this is this. Pudding on Paroo Street had a big brother named Sakai. They got into an incident with the original Crips at Gonzalez Park because they was in Paroo Hood at that time. So what had happened was the Paroos heard about it and they went up there knowing that they was outnumbered, but what they did, they rushed the guys that was on the outskirts of the crowd. Maybe about 5 or 6 guys got beat down by some Paroos on the outskirts, and Raymond in the crowd heard about it. So what did Raymond do? He went to Paroo Street with all the Crips to go deal with these Paroos who just did a sneak attack against them in Paroo Hood at Gonzalez Park. Now I just want to read this real briefly, and I just want to elaborate on this and see what the brothers have to say about the gunplay, as we would call it, of Raymond Washington. And this is from King Bubba Louie. This is not from me. I'm getting this from somebody who was right there day one. And this is what the word of AC King Bubba Louie said. Once back to Paroo Street, we waited for a possible counter Crip attack on Paroo Street itself. We waited with Monty cocktails in hand on both sides of the street, hiding. Our wait wasn't long Within an hour or so, the Crips massed onto Central Avenue entrance to Paroo in such numbers that as they proceed down Paroo Street, we could not see past them once again. It had to be 100 or more. As they approached where we were in hiding, they were not aware of where we were hiding. Sakai came out of hiding, this Putin brother, Sakai, with an African spear in his hand and stood in the middle of the street and announced, "This is Sakai, X Avenue, and now Paroo. Me and Raymond Washington can settle this issue head up." One of the Crips said to Raymond, "He's calling you out." So instead of Raymond meeting this challenge head up, he ran up the middle of the Crips towards Sakai, shooting a gun. When Raymond started shooting, we who were in hiding launched our Monte cocktails, causing the Crips to retreat. Sakai somehow was able to proceed down Paroo Street, resulting in all the Crips fleeing Paroo Street. Now, this is King Bubba Louie, AC. This is his book. This is not my book. This is his story. This is not my story. Do I believe it? Yes, I believe it. And the reason why I believe it, because AC loved Raymond. Raymond is not AC enemy. He still loved Raymond. He'll let you know he still loved Raymond and Bulldog. He have no reason to sit here and fabricate on Raymond Washington. But the truth is that Raymond was a gunner and he shot up Paroo Street. Now, you can call AC a lie, but he know Raymond before anybody just about who was there, because he was there from the beginning. So the only one that could call him a lie probably is Bulldog and get away with it, because he was chain of command number 2. Do anybody want to elaborate on that subject?
Another case right there. One brother willing to go head up, and another brother with a gun.
Finally get a chance to let the